Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters during a briefing on January 23rd, the Biden administration was certainly glad the Supreme Court had permitted the federal government to remove the razor wire, which she called ineffective. Approximately 6 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States during Biden's 3 years in office. So what we're seeing right now, New York is freaking out. Eric Adams says the immigration crisis will destroy the city. Mayor Brandon Johnson has been accused, reportedly, there's a reporter who has asserted, I'm very careful in my language here, he has suffered panic attacks and had to be hospitalized because the immigration crisis, or as the immigration crisis is expanding rapidly in the city. And there are many communities in Chicago, many black communities, that are in uproar over the resources being given out to these migrants. So when you have major Democrat strongholds outraged over the immigration crisis, Joe Biden publicly admitting the border is not secure while actively trying to make it less secure, I don't know what you call this, a rogue executive branch engaged in criminal activities, accused by Texas, the second largest state in the union, of violating the law. Now, we have videos. Let me see if I can pull up one of these videos here. There's the letter. Here we go. Take a look at this from Chuck Calesto. The Texas National Guard filmed marching where I believe this is near Eagle Pass. It just says Texas National Guard, and there have been many responses to this. In fact, I believe we have the Governor Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma saying, Oklahoma stands with Texas. Ron DeSantis, of course, said, if the Constitution really made states powerless to defend themselves against an invasion, it wouldn't be ratified in the first place, and Texas would have never joined the union when it did. Texas is upholding the law while Biden is flouting it. Florida will keep assisting Texas with personnel and assets. So this is going to get interesting. Where are we currently at? 3 states, Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas, are aligned. Texas is declaring supremacy over the border jurisdiction. The question then that we've been asking for the past several days, will the federal government actually make moves against the Texas National Guard?
I don't think so. Showing that Oklahoma and Florida are willing to stand by the Texas National Guard and the Texas government is fulfilling, and it's also indicative that like any state that sits by and watches their federal government seize control of their own state troops has got to be like, hell no. We can't let the federal government go rogue. Rogue is a nice term. Can't let the federal government overstep its bounds and seize our own state soldiers. Like those guys pledge an oath to the state to defend and preserve the state. They're not the federal government's troops.
I'm not sure if the Guard does that or not. I don't know how.
Constitution, most likely. But the federal government is rogue completely.
Yeah.
The Biden administration is a rogue agency at this point. This is a fact. When the Biden administration is breaking the law to the extent that Democrats are upset about it, despite the fact they'll defend him for re-election because these people are insane. But when you have major cities, there is a plurality of those polled saying immigration is the most pressing issue.
Yeah. And
people in these cities that are Democrat, left-leaning are freaking out. This is the unifying force. I mean, perhaps we're getting Joe Biden's pulling off an Ozymandias, for those who get the reference. He is deciding to become the super villain that will unify blue and red states against him. Maybe by the time the election comes up, the immigration problem will be so bad that blue states will beg Donald Trump to help save them.
Maybe somebody.
So, shalom. First, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai. Yahweh is the name of the Most High God. Yahushai is the name of the Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Shalom to the hopeful elect, brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, to the true Hebrew Israelites, to the 144,000, to the elect. As always, shalom. So, as you can see, Texas governor declares the supremacy over the border, and he's basically defying the federal government, the Supreme Court's order to take down the wired fence, right, that they were putting up to stop the migrants from crossing the Texas border and coming into America. So they have openly defied the federal government, and they have sent the National Guard troops out there to continue putting up that fence and to protect the border and to protect the fence that's already up there, which, from my estimation, that means they are declaring civil war against the federal government. So let me just quickly show you something, right? This is a newsreel. All right, look at this.
We have new video tonight that shows the Texas National Guard installing more razor wire at the border right in Eagle Pass. Now, that's despite Monday's Supreme Court ruling, which allows federal Border Patrol agents to remove it. Governor Abbott posted on social media claiming the border crisis constitutes an invasion, and he's invoking Texas's constitutional right to defend and protect itself. In fact, the governor says, quote, "That authority is the supreme law of the land. It supersedes any federal statute."
See that? So,
Federal statute. Any federal
statute. So, he's not going to go back. So that tells me that they're declaring civil war. The state of Texas is declaring civil war against the federal government. Now, remember this, and I did a video about this a couple months ago, all right? And I was telling you about this movie that's coming out on April the 26th, right, of this year. And I told you about this movie, and I said to you, when you add up the dates, the 26th, the 4th, and the 24th, 2024, you add that up, 24, 26, and the 4, but it all equaled 18. 2 add 4 is 6. It comes out on the 4th of the 26th, the 26th of the 4th, the movie, all right? Remember this movie I was telling you about, and I said when you add up the date of its release, it equals 18, and divide 18, you get 666. I said, remember the date, and I told you to look out for this movie that's coming out, because everything they do is called predictive programming, right? So let's quickly play this. Let's quickly give you a recap on the movie that's coming out. And listen carefully to what they say in this movie, especially at the beginning of this trailer. Listen carefully.
Have seceded. The United States Army.
Hold on. Let's play it back from the beginning. Now listen carefully to what they say at the beginning and through it.
19 states have seceded. The United States Army ramps up activity. The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America.
The so-called Western forces of Texas and California.
Hear that? The so-called Western forces of Texas and California. Texas is a state that has openly, what's the word I'm looking for? Openly defied the Supreme Court order of the federal government to take down the border fencing that it's put up to stop the illegal migrants from coming over into America via Texas. They've openly defied it, and they've continued to put up more today as we speak. So this is what this movie's about. Listen to what he says again.
America.
The so-called Western forces of Texas and California
Have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of...
Remember this part of it? I told you about this part of it. I said to you when you're watching the brings it up. This part. Yeah.
Mr. President.
Let's go back a little bit more.
Have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States.
Right. You look on the reflection on the screen. The state that's in dark blue, that's Texas. That's Texas. The state that's defying the federal government's order to take down the border fence crossing is Texas.
States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
We're moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death.
What?
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car! Move, move, move!
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
God bless America.
Civil War. So just maybe the reality is going to hit you before this movie is even released, because this movie doesn't come out until the 26th of April this year. So maybe the reality of this movie is going to hit you before this movie actually comes out. Because, as I said, Governor of Texas, he says that we are the supreme authority and the supreme law of the land that supersedes any federal statutes. So they basically rebuked the federal government and said, we're not taking down the fences. As a matter of fact, we're going to put more up. Praises to Yahweh, Dash. Man, things are truly, truly moving quickly in America. Quickly, quickly. Things are really escalating quickly in Babylon the Great. He said that we're not, he says the authority is the supreme law. The state's authority, supreme law of the land, and supersedes any federal statutes. Basically, they're declaring civil war against the American government and saying, if you send down your soldiers, if you send down your border guards, we are going to stop them. They're going to have to fight us to take down those fences. They're going to have to fight the National Guard. Because remember, the National Guard is, their loyalty is to the state, not to the federal government, to the state government. That's what you must remember. Let's say a little bit more of what these guys were saying, and then we're going to bring out a couple of scriptures.
Is doing that through Biden. They're creating an Ozymandias situation where, like, we're just going to make Biden the worst of the worst so that we can actually unify the country, because Trump ain't getting it done.
For those that don't know the reference, Ozymandias is the villain in the Watchmen graphic novel who stages an alien invasion to force the Cold War nations to unite against a common enemy. And so I don't believe that to be the case. I don't believe that there's anybody smart enough, or I genuinely believe this is completely in line with what Democrats have been doing for some time. And even though you have blue cities in major blue states in uproar over this, these people are still blaming Republicans and they're still backing Joe Biden.
I talk to my parents and I bring them up as just kind of general normie, watch the...
So anyway, let me just bring out a couple of scriptures. I'm going to go to 2nd Ezra, one of my favorite scriptures, chapter 15. Bring out a couple of scriptures, chapter 15. Let's just start here. Verse 14. Woe unto the world and them that dwell in it. For the sword and the destruction draws nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Swords is what? Your modern day guns. That's what's gonna, what if they fight a civil war, you're gonna get one people in America standing up to fight against another people. Democrats are gonna be fighting against the Republicans, the left against the right, the patriots against what they were considered the not so patriots Americans, right? For there shall be sedition amongst men, and that's what you're seeing happening right now, sedition, because they're refusing to acknowledge the Supreme Court's order to take down those wire fencings that's protecting Texas from the illegal migrant crossing. So the Texas governor is refusing to take down those fences. So for there shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings. So Texas is not regarding the President of the United States and the federal government's order from the Supreme Court. They're not regarding their kings nor their princes, which is the federal government, Supreme Court, which starts from the president coming down. They shall not regard them. They've totally decided to disregard the Supreme Court's order. and the course of their action shall stand in their power. That's where the National Guard comes in. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. This is the stage that we're coming into now. We're going to see where it goes. We're going to see truly where this escalates to. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. That sounds like the federal government to me, coming down on those people in Texas. And spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulations. Well, only tribulations can come from what's about to happen. Let me get one more. The book of Isaiah. Book of Isaiah. Don't need to bring out much. We've been telling you that all these things are going to come to pass. Egyptian against Egyptian, which is what? American against American. Now, this is talking about the United States of America. This is, remember, America is spiritually known as Egypt, symbolically known as Edom, Idumea, Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, Assyria, spiritually known as Egypt and Sodom. So the burden of Egypt, the burden of America, behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, chariots, and shall come into Egypt. Ultimately, that's going to be America's end. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set Egyptians against Egyptians, Americans against Americans. That's a civil war. That's a civil war. When you defy the federal government and you prepare to use the National Guards, which are loyal, their loyalties to the state, to defend what to defend the state of Texas against the federal government, that's a civil war. You're declaring civil war against the American government. But we're going to see what they do. We're going to see the pride. We want to see where it's going to go to. But right now, Texas has openly declared a civil war against the federal government because they're defying the Supreme Court's orders. They're sending the National Guard to put up more fences. Listen, when you're doing this, when you're putting up more fences.
New video tonight that shows the Texas National Guard installing more razor wire at the border right in Eagle Pass. Now, that's despite Monday's Supreme Court ruling, which allows federal Border Patrol agents to remove it. Governor Abbott posted on social media claiming the border crisis constitutes an invasion, and he's invoking Texas's constitutional right to defend and protect itself. In fact, the governor
he's invoking,
says, quote, that
he's invoking Texas's constitutional rights to defend itself. Egyptian against Egyptian. To defend itself against who? It's not a foreign invasion, against fellow Americans that are going to be coming in the name of the federal government. Well, praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, boy. Where are we? Let's quickly go back to this. It says here, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, Americans against Americans, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, state against state. This ain't talking about ancient Egypt. There was never a civil war in ancient Egypt where the Egyptians were fighting against the Egyptians. They've had coups d'etats, but not civil wars in Egypt. City against city, and kingdom against kingdom, state against state. What are inside the state? Cities. New York State, what's in New York State? The city of New York City. Texas is a state, and it has cities inside it. Kingdom against kingdom, state against state. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, right? And to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, says the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. All praises. And the waters shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. And they shall turn the rivers far away, and the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up. The reeds and the flags shall wither. So a lot of things are going to come from this. If this event takes place now, if all of this, what we've seen here, the paper reeds by the brooks and the mouth by the brooks are the rivers. Listen, they could cut the water supply into the state. There's so many things that the federal government can attempt to do. We'll see. And everything sown by the brook shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. The fishers also shall mourn, and all they that cast angle into the brook shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the waters shall languish. That's telling you what, famine. You're not going to be able to catch food, fish food to feed. So we don't know where this can go. We don't know. Don't know. Moreover, they that work in fine flax and they that weave networks shall be confounded. Those that are working in the manufacturing industry. And they shall be broken in the purposes thereof, all that make sluices and ponds for fish. Sluices. So anyway, I can go on and on and on, but it's mainly between verses 1 and 10. It's truly talking about Babylon the Great, the United States of America. All right? When it talks about the Egyptian against the Egyptian, that's the ultimate thing that's happening here. So we're going to see where this goes. We're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to see where it goes. Lord willing, it goes exactly where we want it to go. It's going to bring the Egyptian against Egyptian. So once again, Texas governor to defy federal government and declare civil war against migrants border fence crossing. All praises and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. I think that's what I'll call it. I might change it when I put it into post-production. But as always, I give the praise and glory to Yahweh the Most High. Yahweh Shai is the Son who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. These are prophecies that are being fulfilling in front of our eyes. I hope you can see it. I spoke about this 2 or 3 months ago when that movie first came out, that trailer. And as you can see, I said to you, predictive programming. Maybe the event takes place before the movie actually gets released on the 26th of April this year. So keep praying, keep safe, repent. Hold on to this truth, family, because things are truly hotting up.